Welcome back. It's time for Media Watch on France 24, our roundup of the top stories in the international press. And James Creedon has it all. Good evening.
Good evening, Nana.
We're going to talk about Valentine's Day in just a moment. But first, we start with politics. And French socialist candidate François Hollande has given an interview to The Guardian.
That's right. And a lot of people are looking at this interview and saying, hold on a minute, you're not really saying the same things to the British that you were saying to your own party, Faithful, just a few weeks ago at your first big political rally. What's going on here? Well, I suppose he's speaking to a different audience, really. That's what's happening.
Still,
but
it's interesting.
Yes, inconsistencies. So just to actually speak about what the major inconsistency is, he told his first political rally a couple of weeks ago that the world of finance was his main adversary. So he was very much targeting the financial industry as, his enemy and what he was going to target if he were to be elected president. He said it was an example, basically, of the broad anti-banker campaign rhetoric that he had adopted. Then he goes over to England, gives an interview to The Guardian, which is even a kind of a centre-left paper, and he says the left was in government for 15 years, in which we liberalised the economy, opened up markets to finance and privatisations. There's nothing to fear. And he was talking as well about how there are no communists left in France.
Not quite the same tune. The headline there really says it all. François Hollande seeks to reassure the UK and the City of London.
That's right. So he's not speaking to his electorate when he's speaking to the City of London, right? Even though there are quite a few French bankers working over there. And let's take a look at what some on the far left in France thought of that. You had Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who, let's just say, wasn't too impressed. He's a far left candidate, former member of the Socialist Party.
Be informed that he didn't exist anymore.
Exactly. That's what he said. And a Communist Party spokesman said, "Oh, the 132,000 members of the Communist Party will be delighted to hear that they don't exist at all." So, the fact that he said that there are no communists left in France, it's not exactly true. In fact, the Communist Party, while not being in a very healthy situation compared to its past strength, it still exists.
It's alive and breathing.
Right. Exactly.
Moving on to Valentine's Day, the topic of the day in much of the world's media. And a question posed here in France, can't Generation Y find love at all?
It's interesting because Generation Y, I've seen it coming up on front pages and headlines a lot in the last week. Have a look at Les Inrecuptibles, which is a sort of a culture, music, society magazine. They have it on their front page coming out tomorrow, saying that Generation Y is now taking the reins of power. This is the 18 to 30 year age group. They're defined in these sort of articles as a generation who grew up with the internet, who dismiss social norms as we know them now, who are painted by their elders as individualistic, insolent, unstable in work and in their love lives, and a little bit selfish. So this is how they're perceived. But in fact, it's a generation that I suppose has grown up with tools, social media tools, and doesn't accept necessarily the status quo. So that's I suppose, just a bit of backdrop. But let's have a look at
what the introduction.
That's right. Let's have a look at this article in Le Monde today. Now, it was written by a 23-year-old law student by the name of Renaud Homez. Now, I don't think Renaud is really an authority on law at 23 years of age.
But he's through with love. He says he's through with
love. He says his Generation Y, are incapable of love. We grew up in an age, he said, when all the external signs of love were there. Our parents and grandparents, for the most part, married and stayed married. Yet, he says, and this is something that people over 30 won't understand, Renaud hastens to add, this is an era where selfish individualism and the frenzied search for pleasure has led to total chaos. It has been, love has been replaced by the search for pleasure. He then goes on to point the finger of blame at Facebook, at social media sites in general, at dating sites, actually, saying that what they've done is that they've created a sort of a marketplace for love, where people are given the illusion that that we're all interchangeable, that we can be kind of traded in for the next person who comes along. He says that Facebook in particular allows you to sort of friend somebody before you even go on a date with them, to make a decision about that person on the basis of the friends they have, their interests,
what their profile looks like.
Right, but I suppose what he's neglecting to point out is that Facebook is as much what isn't put on as it is what, well, I suppose, I'm not sure, that depends on your perception. But anyway, he goes on to say that Facebook is a formidable accelerator and destroyer of human relations. So he's pretty much the Grim Reaper on this 14th of February.
He was just born at the wrong time. Right. He doesn't belong in Generation
That's right.
Y.
I think and he says that he hopes that Valentine's Day won't become a symbol for love's deterioration. Now, I suppose there's 2 points to be made, really. He is very young and it could change. And secondly, the internet as a tool that is being in all of our lives, that's only the case for about 10, 15 years. Give society a chance to catch up with these new tools. I think we'll find ways of dealing with the excesses or with the problems that they might pose in terms of how we interact with one another and how we deal with love online.
All right, James Creedon, let's end on a more positive note regarding Valentine's Day.
I think Renault was wrong. How about that?
Thanks very much for that. That was Media Watch with James Creedon. Do stay tuned. Live from Paris continues. Up next is a full news update, as well as a sports and a culture update. Stay with us for more.
Catch up with all the latest news from the French presidential campaign. Find out about the candidates, their strategies, what they want you to hear and what they don't. Go behind the scenes of the presidential campaign with France 24. Campaign Chronicles, every Friday live at 1:10 p.m. Paris time on France 24.